This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
There's a lot going on. Inflation, down economy, higher taxes down the road, continuing to feed onto feelings of uncertainty for everybody, but especially baby boomers who are about to retire or maybe are already retired. Can you afford to retire? How can you avoid more losses in your 401k? What options do you have for income in retirement? Scott, you got to help us, my man. Scott here on today's Financial Insanity, out-of-the-box thinking for your financial sanity. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to spend some time answering some of those big questions right now about retirement savings and what options people have. So first off, Scott, with inflation running so high and my investments doing poorly, I'm worried I won't be able to afford to retire. Scott, what should I do?
Well, what should you do is immediately, number one, I'm glad you asked the question, what should you do? Because a lot of people are sitting back and they're doing nothing. So number one, what should you do? Be aware. Number two, and then understand, how does it affect your investing? Not only you're investing for old money that's been there a while, but new money that you're putting in. If you're still in retirement and you're nearing retirement, are you still putting money in? And when you put that money in those vehicles and when you put those monies out there, what accounts should you put them into? And I get those questions. What should you do with your money? Number one, do something. Number two, what should you do? Maybe get a second opinion or a third opinion, or call our studios and maybe I can help you. I don't know what you have. And frankly, I can't tell you what to do until I know a little bit about people, which would be malpractice on my part. But what I really want to know is, what programs do you have? What vehicles are out there? Where should you put your money? Well, we need to know where it's at. And then, of course, when you plan on time horizon, when do you think you want to retire? And so that is really important. Where do we put my money if you're in or nearing retirement? The second type of person, Alex, or people that we're talking to, you right there that I'm talking, that's right, I'm looking at you right now, or in the mind's eye of your wallet. If you're in retirement, and obviously if you're on a fixed income, what should you do right now? And this is not a time to sit on your laurels and take a nap. Yeah, so please don't take a nap, because taking a nap could make it worse. And what if you don't wake up from a nap and you get sleep apnea and you fall asleep forever? All right, does not take a nap. So I'm trying to make it light, Alex, but we are in a time that when I got in the business in 1982, licensed in 83, inflation was slowly taking off. And most of us know that are listening to the radio right now, if you're listening, you remember those times when CDs, Alex, you're too young, but your parents know this, but when CDs were at an all-time high in the late 80s that are almost 17%. That's right, 17, 18%. Treasuries were paying 13 3/4. Are the vehicles out there? So what should you do? Do something. What should you do? Get another opinion, or maybe if someone's not, bring it up. And then, of course, look at your portfolio. Maybe you need to make some changes in that portfolio, some radical changes based on how you review your portfolio.
Well, and Scott, let's talk about something specifically there, because for people who are saving for retirement, it's been maybe a little bit rough, and you don't want people to necessarily overreact, but how can I avoid having more losses in my 401k? Anything I can do?
So whether it's a 401k, a 403b, 401a, whatever those qualified plans are, I'd like you to take, number one, a look at your portfolio. Take a look at the portfolio and look at the investment options. Most of us older folks were trained to say, well, let's go to bonds because bonds are safe. Well, what's the definition of safe? No, I didn't say bomb, B-O-M-B, bomb, because bonds could bomb. I didn't say bomb, I said bond. So interest rates go up, bond goes down. Now, the question is, if you're in bonds or bond funds, which I've seen many portfolios, I'm saying, why doesn't the advisor wake up these people unless you're in individual bonds and have a return, a steady return that they're promising, and a short-term duration? When do they mature? This is really important if you have individual bonds. Now I say that because a lot of people think they're in the safe bonds, but they could be in bond funds versus individual bonds, and there's a huge difference. So again, if you're in a 401k, 403b, 457, any type of qualified account, I want you to see if there's what's called a fixed guaranteed bucket. Maybe it's a stable value bucket. This may be a statement I say, zero could be your hero. In other words, if the market continues to drop, and it's been jumping up and down like a Dunkin' yo-yo, but the question is, in these vehicles called the guaranteed type funds or the stable value funds, or a fund, maybe it's in a fixed fund, these could be very, very critical, wonderful tools, but we need to ask you more questions. What is it invested in? So again, as I mentioned before, people always pop by and say, what's going on? How can I help me? How can Scott help me? Please, as Alex said, what do? Take action. Don't put this aside. So if you have the 401ks, 403bs, even IRAs, they probably need I call it an autopsy review. An autopsy review. Could they be dying? Let's get them before they die, because we need to have that review.
And Scott, and for folks, if they do have questions, that number 609-488-4646. But you mentioned something there, as we talk a lot about 401ks, but there's also the 403bs out there. And what happens if something happens to me? I mean, is there some sort of lump sum payout for my spouse, possibly?
There could be in a 403b or a 401k, because they're similar. 403b, for those people who know the difference between a 403b and a 401k, a 403b is like a nonprofit organization, similar to a hospital or a school, college. A 401k is built for companies who make money or that's profit motivated, but the tools work almost identical. They just have a different number there, 401k, 403b. So lump sum payouts. Now, there's some vehicles, if you're about to pick a retirement payout plan, and they call it annuitization. And so if there's a payout plan, before you choose that, you need to find out all of the options in the payout plan, because I've seen people take a lump sum and they'll invest it themselves. But the question is, in a low interest rate environment, that might be smarter than a high interest rate environment. So you've got to weigh the differences. Do not pick and choose and take your portfolio, put it against a wall and throw a dart. That'd be double dumb. But you need to understand a lump sum. Can I reinvest it myself? Can I get a guaranteed rate of return, or can I get a decent rate of return? And the second thing on top of that, picking the returns, is, well, what if I passed away? How much will my children receive if I passed away? And in those choices, in those pension plans, if you choose, let's say, if I die and I take the lump sum, well, hopefully my portfolio lasted. But if I left the company to invest it for me, called a pension plan, or in this case, a 401k with a guaranteed payout for myself, what happens to my spouse? Could I choose a different plan? And there's lots of options that you could get tied up in and totally hamstrung, not knowing which to pick what. This is so important in an interest rate economy, or an inflationary economy, plus interest rates just screaming to the roof. The choices could be devastating. Investing for the income, investing for the guarantees, investing for my spouse, or maybe I have a significant others. And then could there be money left over for my kids? Yes or no? And we call this a pension option. And this is where people make the majority of mistakes. They don't make a mistake when they're early because they don't know it, but they can make a huge mistake, a devastational mistake. Like that new word? Devastation. A tremendous mistake, because you chose the wrong plan, and all of a sudden, here you are, and you and your lovely spouse are driving down the road, and some idiot you crash into. Accidents happen. Well, when the accidents happen, the question is if your spouse, or let's say husband and wife, died and they chose the option, there could be zero, nothing, nada, zilch left for the kids. All of that went down the drain. So again, this is nothing you do by yourself. I mean, this is all we do. Now going on our 41st year, this is all we do. And making those choices, it doesn't mean you have to invest with the advisor, but the advisor should be giving you wise, sound counsel, giving you a lot of options, not the options that will benefit the advisor, options that will benefit you, your spouse, and your children. So, Alex, that's a really important point when they're in or heading into retirement, and the choices you make could be wonderful, but you've got to look at all the choices and then weigh them based on what's happening. If you have a question, please, before you buy something like this, 609-488-4646. 609-488-4646.
Scott welcomes you to try that number. Also, if you would rather go to the website, it is simply the phone number with .com at the end. So 609-488-4646.com.
How simple is that?
Pretty darn easy. And you are listening to Financial Insanity, out of the box thinking for your financial sanity. More with Scott coming up.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Can we really live the go-go years, or am I going to scrimp and save and stay at home and watch TV, watch Bob Barker? I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Millions of Americans' retirement money is in something like an IRA or a 401k. And as a whole, U.S. retirement assets are more than $32 trillion. And over half of it, over $19 trillion, is in IRAs and defined contribution plans. I'm Alex Dingman, along with Scott McLean. 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. But what do you think about those figures there, and what's that mean for folks, Scott?
It's amazing. I'm so excited to see, even though the markets are like a Duncan yo-yo, goes up and down. When you're climbing a mountain, Alex, and you're going a yo-yo, you're watching your yo-yo go up and down. The goal is to get to the mountaintop. So if you're just watching the yo-yo, you don't know where you're going. You're just watching the yo-yo go up and down. It's almost right now. People are watching the markets go up and down, but they don't know what's the end game. So a lot of people, all of us that are heading into retirement, they're building up their savings. There's some types of retirement accounts, whether they're Roth IRAs, you mentioned a 401k, 403b, 457. We have the defined contribution. There's a lot of different retirement plans, and I call that yummy money or ugly money. The ugly money is defined retirement plans, 401ks, 403, because when you pull it out, it's taxable. And when we spend time with our clients, we want to see the tax return and how are you going to pull out money. So the decision really is to really save money, A. B, how much should you be saving? And C, where do you put the money to get in this crazy stock market? And you definitely don't want to have a lot of Pepto-Bismol every single night when you go to bed and watch the bad news.
No.
How do you get stability and strength? And this is where you need a coach And really, when you start pulling money out of the markets, this is now a tax game. So when you meet with your financial advisor and he or she is not asking to look at the tax return, they're leaving a piece of you out. It's like running a marathon in the rain and on really on rocks, but you have no shoes on. Double dumb, just double dumb, double butt dumb. And I can tell you, you want to make sure you have the right equipment, the right tools when the market is like it is, volatile as it is right now, and you're about to retire. So again, I'm so glad you keep putting money in, dollar cost averaging. We can talk about that later on if they want to, but the question is, what should you do now? And I can tell you this is really important.
Well, and Scott, the thing is, too, when we're talking about these accounts, the big thing to think about, and you hit on it, was that's how are these things going to be taxed? So you're talking about a 401k, IRA, and so there's different options there, and it just matters when it comes down to it of how that retirement income's going to be taxed. And so this is just important details, obviously, for people to know about.
You know, this is why I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice. And if you're listening to me right now, if you want to get a copy of the book, anybody who wants to come in and meet with me, I'd be happy to give it to you. I'm not trying to sell the book at all. But I think what's happening is you have your three blind mice, your financial advisor, your legal guy, your will, power of attorney, living will. And then, of course, you've got your tax guy, your CPA or your accountant or whatever. And this is what's so important, that the financial guy or gal that you're working with, if they're not looking at the tax return and you're about to pull money out and you're ready to retire, the most important thing I can tell you, I can encourage you, I would beg you, is to get with your financial guy or gal and say, here's my tax return. How should I be pulling money out? What's going to be the most challenging process of pulling money out? How much extra tax will I pay? When Social Security was tax-free, now Social Security can be taxed up to 85%, and you don't even know that. How does that get affected? And when you're pulling money out of these qualified plans, I call it ugly money because it's qualified. You have to pay tax at the ordinary tax basis. When you pull the money out, how much are you going to pay in taxes? And I think I know for a fact when we meet with people who want to come in and want to get a second opinion or a third opinion, this is a tremendous tool. What is this? The tax return. It is a tremendous, powerful tool when you're going into retirement, along with if you're getting Social Security disability, maybe your spouse is getting that. Or maybe you're getting 2 or 3 different pension plans, or maybe you're not getting Social Security because you work for the railroad, you're getting a different plan. So this is not a one-time meet somebody and invest. No, This is a game plan or a discussion on how to best optimize your retirement for the best choices. You won't have to pay excessive taxes because you walk through the process of taxes. And I can tell you, this is where whether it's pre-tax, post-tax retirement, you've got to pay attention. You've got to pay attention to taxes because you think you're going to live on, let's say, $4,000 a month, but you end up living on maybe $3,500 a month. That $500 could affect people,
right?
Because of why? You didn't take in the consideration, not you, but the person that you're working with did not look at the taxes. And this is a vital mistake.
Yes, 609-488-4646 is the number, 609-488-4646. We're talking about decisions that need to be made in regards to your 401k or your IRA. And, one of those things is the rules about taking money out of these accounts. And what do we need to know, Scott, about when we have to start taking those required minimum distributions, those RMDs?
Well, those required minimum distributions are exciting. I think every year the government is lately setting a game plan up to postpone it. And it sounds great. I can postpone it. It used to be 70 and a half, changed to 72, and now it's 73. So they're postponing and say, oh, the government's so nice. Okay, well, they changed something else. They changed, what if you pass away and it goes to, let's say, the nieces, the nephews, maybe your kids. Now you have what's called it becomes a beneficiary IRA, or maybe your mother and dad passed away and you're receiving it. Those are out there. If you've received an inheritance, do yourself a favor. Give our studios a quick shout out and set a time up with me for 10, 15 minutes. We can talk about the beneficiary IRA post 2020, pre 2020, because this is the mistakes I have seen so often. How do you pull money out? The government changed the rules. And so let's use the rules for your benefit, not for Scott's benefit, not for your financial advisors, your benefit, for your benefit. And this is where the tax return, along with maybe the IRAs, the 401ks, come involved. Maybe you receive money from someone passing, beneficiary IRAs, or maybe it's time to start doing a conversion based on your tax return to converting it to Roth IRAs, tax-free money. And you can do that over a period of time until, of course, the government's allowing you still to do it, and they want to get their hands on your money. The IRS is amazing. I do believe, Alex, they need to hire more people without guns, by the way. Just hire more IRS people, because who likes sitting on the phone for 3 hours just to speak to somebody, get an answer, and you get a brand new person, they give you a half-tail answer. This is not good. This is why, if you're out there, you've got a financial guy or gal, you love them to death, or you want to give us a call, let's take a look at the tax returns, because 403B, 401k, 457 IRAs all have a left hook coming. And when it comes, you don't want to be the recipient of that left hook. In other words, excessive taxes because you didn't pay attention, or the financial person you're working with didn't even look at that. And that's the three blind mice you're working with. They didn't pay attention.
Well, and Scott, it just speaks to like, there's changes that happen all the time. There's rules, there's requirements that may adjust or that are just, hard to remember. And if you were trying to do this DIY approach, the kind of stuff that you'd have to keep in your mind and you'd have to keep updated, and you're going to miss something. And that's where somebody like you, Scott, sure, the rule changes, they might bother you too, as far as, okay, now I got to learn something new, but that's your job, is to go in here, okay, RMD changed from 72 to 73. What does that mean? Okay, these new rules because this new administration, or due to what's going on with the economy, this is kind of what we can foresee happening. I mean, these are things that, man, it wears you out as an advisor having to keep track of, but that's your job. That's what you love to do. You love being that person for folks, and so they can go focus on other things. Go see those grandkids. Go play some golf today. Don't be sitting here trying to get all the details worked out of every single plan you have, every single account. I mean, it's good for you to know some things, but shoot, let the expert help guide you also. That's why you're here.
It is. And I want to thank those of you who have been with me for so long. I know we've received so many phone calls because of our radio show. We've done a lot of TV. You've probably seen my beautiful face, or George's beautiful face, on TV. We do this not to strum up a ton of business, to let you know, hey, we're out there. We're on our game. The laws change, as you well stated, Alex. They change so rapidly. And I myself, we still got to go through the continuing education process. We still got to take classes. And it's not like a professor sitting behind the pulpit and teaching students. I'm in the game working with clients and teaching other people, because I love it. And I think education is so important. And, sometimes I miss rules. I miss it. Yeah, that's right. I made a mistake. Okay, great. If I miss something, the neat thing is I've got people to lean on and run things by, whether it's a pool of CFAs, Chartered Financial Analysts, or CPAs. I can make a couple phone calls and just double check my work, which is what we do here. Like you said, Alex, that's our job. And rules do change. I was, Alex, to give you an example, I was helping a young woman. Here she is, 55. The rules is on IRAs, you can pull money out after 59 and a half. And she wanted income. She inherited a lot of money from her daddy, and she wanted to pull income out. So we put her into a couple vehicles. Some of the money went into a non-qualified account, which means when you pull it out, it's not taxable, except for any kind of short-term, long-term capital gain. but she also had IRAs. So we did a strategy program, and I looked through it all. I said, you know what? Based on the risk factor, the beta, with the alpha factor, how much growth we can have, and this is about as deep as I'm going to get on the radio, where does she put her money? You know, we took money out of her account because she's 55. She can't take it from IRAs unless she turns it on to a 72T. Well, we changed her investment. She is getting a nice check every single month, non-taxable. And then when she turns 59 and a half, we switch accounts. We start doing some Roth conversions, and she still pulls money out, keeping her tax bracket down. Really fun stuff. It's almost like you and I are playing chess. The one who has the more knowledge and can think 4 or 5 steps ahead, you're the winner. I don't know if you guys are out there. If you're the winner, you're a winner when you look at the taxes and the investment. If you're not, you could be being set up, as the Three Blind Mice says, they need to talk to each other. And if they don't, you're the one who are going to suffer the consequences. Don't let that happen. Give our studios a call. If you would like that help, we're here for you. 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. No cost, no obligation. By the way, that's our website, 609-488-4646.com. You'll go there. You can peruse the site, see what's going on, and then give our studios a call. Ask for Bonnie. She'll put you in the queue. Would love to speak to you. No cost, no obligation, because making tax decisions could cost an exorbitant amount of money that you didn't have to pay, and that's called regret.
Whether it's a 401k or an IRA that you have for retirement, one thing is certain. You can't treat your retirement account like an ATM. Spending down your savings too quickly and running out of money is an option, well, you just can't afford. Financial Insanity with Scott McLean continues in just a moment.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly does not. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 40 years here in the Jersey Shore area, Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group have seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Scott can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 609-488-4646 now to meet with Scott McLean and the team at McLean Advisory Group. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Scott McLean might be able to help. Call 609-488-4646 and schedule your visit today. Again, that's 609-488-4646.
Investment advisory services are offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Put your positive hat on. Let's have a call it a come to Jesus meeting. Let's have a real live discussion. Let's get somewhere and put a game plan together.
We made it back. This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
Whether you have a 401k or an IRA, you cannot treat those things like a big ATM. Those retirement accounts, well, there are certain strategies that you have to implement to make sure you do not run out of money in retirement. The number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646 if you want to talk to Scott and his team over at the McLean Advisory Group. But what do you think about that, Scott? Probably should have some strategies so you don't run out of that money in those retirement accounts.
Well, you could do the Wing Chun plan and wing it.
Yeah. I mean, might be fun for a little bit, but
it would
eventually,
be. I mean, in your early years, they call it the go-go years.
Yep.
You're making a fat income, and then you retire. You put the skids on, and you and your lovely spouse or your family want to go on trips, and you're spending money.
Yep.
This is really important. I love meeting with people at least a year before retirement, if not 6 months at the latest. Hey, Scott, we're fixing to retire. Okay, great. We can take a fixed dollar amount, but what I find is when you're living, let's say, on 70, 80,000, 100,000 a year, and you are working, well, you're making that money, but you have now retired. Now you got no other taxes. Social Security tax, that's off the table. You're not paying that. FICA, FUCA tax, it's off the table. The question's going to be, how are you going to pull it out? Maybe from a fixed amount of money. I want to pull $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. Okay, great. What investments are you in? And maybe you say, well, Scott, you know what? I want to pull a lot out now. I want to buy a new car. I want to buy, I want to go on a trip to Europe and I want to spend some money. This is not a wing it plan, even though it is kind of when you're first retired. Most people have a juicy income. They go to retirement and they're, all right, I'll just live on the same income. I call it the wing it plan. And they don't think, okay, they could be spending a lot of money, usually in the go-go years when you first retire. Then we have the slow-go years. You're not doing as much. So maybe you're not going to that same vacation. You did it, you done it, you don't want to do it again. And then we have the no-go years. Your lights are twinkling. Maybe they're getting dull. Or maybe you say, you know what, I don't want to go snow skiing anymore. My knees are busted. I can't go. Y'all have fun. And so is it the fixed dollar plan? Is it maybe a limited, maybe you're going to limit withdrawals over that period of time? Do you have investments that by way of contract, listen, investments by way of contract, they're paying a steady check to you, and they could pay a steady check for your life, or by way of the contract, like a bond, like a preferred. What if they don't pay a dividend? And so these are really, really important. Then some of you guys out there and ladies, lovely, beautiful ladies and men, maybe you have the bucket plan. I called you. You put your money in a bucket, you start pulling it out. How much do you pull out of the bucket? Or maybe you have a bucket plan. I have enough money in case the refrigerator breaks. Save, refrigerator breaks. Save. I need 4 new tires in my car. Save. The kids are going through a divorce. They need help. Save. The kids can't pay their mortgage. I'm going to help them. This is a bucket plan. You know, I call it a emergency type of plan. But remember, it's your emergency for those retiring. It's not the kids' retirement. They got to go through the bump in the road sometimes. I know everybody wants to bail the kids out, but sometimes you need, and I don't mean to be ugly. If anyone's out there listening, if you haven't met me, I'm really warm and love people to death, but sometimes they just have to go through that bump in the road to figure it out themselves.
Right. And
this could minimize the required minimum distribution by using the Roth conversion tool. So maybe we'll start putting in the IRAs and 401k monies. We start pulling the 403b. We start pulling the money out. Again, you look at how do I pull income out? This is where I always talk about, if you've listened to me before, I say TR, total return equals I plus G, income plus growth. So if you have a growth plan, you can't spend growth when it drops, right? But if you have income, you don't have to sell off shares. You enjoy the dividend, that dividend or the interest coming in. And I can tell you the distribution strategies that are out there are really vital when those of you heading into retirement, if you're not paying attention, look at all the neat strategies that could happen. And there's some cool ones out there. It's really, really can be really simple when you get someone to educate you through that process, your light bulb will come on like it did in mine when I was in school. It's like, wow, this is cool. I got to tell everybody. And now you head into the education phase, which we've been doing. So, Alex, that's really important for people out there. If you're in retirement or about to retire, how do you set it up?
Yes. Talking IRA and 401k decisions today. If you have questions, the number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, how do we figure out how much income we're going to need these different accounts to generate? We know that we're going to need to figure out different ways than just that paycheck in the future. These are some strategies, but how do we decipher how much income from here, how much from here? How do we go about that process?
So that's a really loaded question.
Right.
So when first of all, you see how much money do we have in qualified plans. A qualified plan could be an IRA, a 401k, 403b, 457. This is taxable money. Then we look at the non-taxable money market, savings account, fixed accounts, CDs. And we say, okay, maybe we take from both sides. Why? Taxes. How can we reduce taxes? And then we say, look, we also have income coming in from where? Well, maybe you have a pension plan. This is the biggest mistake I can see people making. They take the maximum withdrawal and the spouse gets nothing because they buy, let's say, $200,000 of insurance. They think that's a lot, and they take the maximum plan. For example, maybe you choose the plan that's going to give you $3,000 maximum for life. And if you buy $200,000, if you die, they take the $200,000 thinking that 300,000 or that money, that $3,000 a month will last. It won't. So let me give you some formulas. If you have a pencil and paper, if you're driving right now, pull over, or maybe you go to our website, 609-488-4646.com. You'll probably hear we're going to save this radio show and put it on there. But I called the rule of 4. They've been using this for years. So let's say I need $3,000 a month and I don't have any pension plan and I'm not using my Social Security. I need $3,000 a month. Real simple. 3,000 times 12 is $36,000. What's going to fund the $36,000? Again, this is you must do your budget first. So you know, worst case scenario, cat food? No, let's stay away from cat food and dog food. Although that may be more healthy for you. I don't know these days, but $36,000 divided by 0.04 to give you $36,000 a year. That's $900,000 of assets. So when I see people taking the maximum plan, getting $200,000, they're short by $700,000 if they plan on living a good long time. Now, taking Social Security. This is another one of the game plans. When do you turn it on? This is, by the way, for some of you, you probably need to turn it on now. For others of you, you may say, you know what, we can delay it. Everybody is not a cookie cutter machine. Well, I heard the IRS and the Social Security and all the government plans, Social Security is going to be out by 2033. If you've been to my workshops, I've been talking about this. This is nothing new. If you've been under my tutelage, because I've been talking about this, the question is, how are you going to pull out money and where? So when we think about it, we look at number one, your budget. What do you really need? What do you really want? Worst case, best case scenario. Your mom and dad taught you all that. The next question is, how is the taxes going to be affected? How much do I have to pull out in taxes? And third, where? Like Alex, you mentioned in the beginning, what accounts do we take from? Again, that is where the tax return and your choices. Maybe you have a pension plan. Let's add in the Social Security. When do we turn Social Security on? Do we start to burn down money now or not? This is loaded. So when Alex, that question you ask, that's a loaded question. You can't. We're on the radio right now. In the worst case scenarios, I give you advice, and for maybe a few of you, it's great advice. If I gave you one game plan, but we're not a set it and forget it environment. We're not a cookie cutter people. Everyone's so different. Some of you guys out there and ladies are taking care of a special needs child. And maybe you need to think about the special needs. Some of you have what's called the Veterans Aid and Attendance Pension Benefit, and you want to protect your assets and, of course, get the veterans benefit. Maybe some of you are out there saying, you know, Scott, I've got a Social Security, but we did choose the plan, the maximum plan. What do we do to protect my spouse or my kids? How do I protect money? It's not a set it and forget. Anytime, Alex, anytime I meet people, it's not a one-time meeting. Let's go ahead and make some sales. We never do that. I've got to meet people, ask them lots of questions, whether it's one meeting or two meetings or three meetings. No cost, no obligation. I got to get to know your situation, know what's going on, know the dynamics. Because I guarantee you, if you've got the special needs grandchild and you want to leave money to that grandchild, or maybe your wife or your husband's lights are going dim, and maybe you need to shift that money into an irrevocable trust to hide your house and hide your assets from, I say, the crows and the clowns show up at the funeral. How do we protect our money? And so we think about maybe special trusts, which is when we work with the legal departments. So I'm not sure about you out there that are listening right now. This is not Alex asked a very difficult question, but a very powerful question. How do you figure out how much money or income you need in these different accounts to generate? That determines on several questions. And so that's a loaded question. I know I took probably excessive time. If
No.
you're out there and you're saying, Scott, we've got a lot of different accounts. They're all over the place. Do yourself a favor and give our studios a call off the air. And then say, you know what? I felt comfortable on the phone, Scott. I felt you didn't have to beg or bug. We won't do that. My name is on the door. This is going in our 43rd year of the business. And if the Lord lets me have another 43 years, otherwise I got younger people in my office. So our office will continue for another 43 years. But I think the question is, how do you set your money up so it'll last a good long time for the rest of your life that you can bank on? And that's why people give us a call off the air, 609-488-4646. That's my studio, 609-488-4646.com if you want to visit us online. But Alex, that's a really hard question.
Well,
I hope I try to answer some of those people out there.
Well, and what you did, Scott, was you made it very clear that an income strategy is necessary in retirement, having one set, and so that you have a plan. And to that point, Scott, when is the best time to get with a trusted financial partner to make that happen as far as having that income strategy in retirement? When is the right time to have that conversation?
I love meeting people, whether it's 5 years before, and worst case scenario, 6 months before.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because we have to put a plan together where they can practice it, because you're going to mess up the first 4, 5, 6 months. You're going to mess up, almost like working out. You work out one day, your body's sore, you don't want to work out again. This is a plan that needs to be put in place, and then have someone hold you accountable, because this is not a do-over plan. This is not a set it and forget it.
Scott welcomes you to try that number. Also, if you would rather go to the website, it is simply the phone number with .com at the end. So 609-488-4646.com.
How simple is that?
Pretty darn easy. And you are listening to Financial Insanity, out of the box thinking for your financial sanity. More with Scott coming up.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
I call it the chicken and the egg. The chicken is the investment, the egg is the dividend. And so when the chicken pops out the eggs, if you don't need the money, let's reinvest the eggs and buy more chickens.
Man, that's just an excellent analogy, Scott.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Financial Insanity. We're having a great time as always. And in this segment, we wanted to get your questions. And so we're going to get some insights from Scott on some of your main retirement concerns, and then something fun here at the end. Scott, you're going to have to be on your toes here. We're going to do a lightning round of think fast questions. So
I appreciate that, Alex. I'm excited to tell people because we've gotten so many phone calls, and thank you for allowing me to give them to you so you can curate them to what the most common questions were. So let's get this party started.
Let's do it, my man. All right. So our first question here, we hear this a lot, but what could the impact be on my pension if I decide to retire early?
Great one. Thank you, John, who wrote that. John, let me make it real clear to you. Reduced monthly benefits. Could you reduce your monthly benefits? Number two, are you banking on your spouse's income or your significant other's income? If you're not banking on your other significant income, great. What does that look like? But then you must also think about, John, you must think about what if you became disabled and you needed extra money? Could that or could that not affect you? This is a critical decision when we talk about Social Security, as well as the many pension options that you're available to take. And this is mistakes. I call this the pension trap. So if you have questions out there, anybody about to take the pensions, you definitely want to give our studios a call, because this is one of the most disastrous choices when they pick the pension option. What option is the best for you? It's not a simple ABC, let's go to D. That's not the right. So please don't put that off. Please feel free to give me a call. I don't mean to throw a plug out there. No cost, no obligation. Call me in my studio, 609-488-4646. And again, thank you, John, for your call, 609-488-4646. Anybody else has questions and want to go on the air, Alex, I'll give them to you. Go ahead, next one.
Love it. As we're going through some listener questions today, another question we had coming in: how might healthcare costs affect my retirement savings? That's a big one.
It is a big one. When you think about the rising cost of health insurance, I just had a meeting yesterday with someone, and he said they had a health care plan, HSA. What a great way to hide and defer income for retirement, or for you and or your spouse. If you're married, if you're single, it's a different game plan. But are you using your HSA? Question is it an HSA, use it or lose it? Nah, unless you have health expenses for you or your spouse. The second question is going to be, if it's for both of you, can you not lose it? Can you carry it with you when you retire? Why? Because the rising of healthcare, the unplanned medical expenses, or for those of you who have teeth that need new teeth, that could be one heck of an expense for a medical that's unseen. Then you have long-term care costs going into retirement, and perhaps add in inflation. This could be a spanking. So again, if I were to warn you out there, Charlie, you wrote this, you and Susan wrote this, you kind of did it together. Thank you. This is a very important question when it comes to healthcare benefits and how it really can affect your retirement savings, because God forbid you get a major health illness and maybe your lights start to twinkle or go dim, and you have to have someone else care for each one of your loved ones. And if the kids aren't going to help out, it is a really, really expensive chore.
Scott, you hit on inflation. As we're going over listener questions today, if you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisory Group, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. But how does someone calculate for inflation when trying to figure out if they've saved enough? I know, right?
What kind of question is that? I mean, I see, and I look at this, Janie, when you sent that question into us, like, that's a really loaded question, because when you're trying to plan for inflation, we've just seen the rapid inflation from 2021, 22, the rising of interest rates, the screaming of interest rate. We see bank failures happening because they had to buy government bonds to protect their money, and they have a bank situation. Man, that was a whole poop show of challenges. So I guess slow and steady wins the race, but we do need. So in inflationary times, usually stock does better. But sometimes we've just faced this. The market has been really volatile. If you think about 2022, it has been tremendous. If you had a bond or like instruments or income type instruments, you probably lost around 15 to 20%. But if you didn't get scared and your underwear didn't get dirty and you held on, you finally are starting to come back. So be very cautious on how you invest the money and understanding the process of what investments to go into, because there are inflationary investments that we can keep up. We saw the Treasury. We had some of you out there let me know when you bought that 9% inflationary bond. That was wonderful for a little bit of money based on your portfolio. Again, you need to adapt to the situations. And again, what is your risk tolerance? Should it be higher now with the rapid inflation? Because we have to keep up with the money. And then, of course, your lifestyle has to change for some of you, because you frankly can't go out to dinner maybe twice a week. Maybe it's twice a month because of inflation. You're buying this food. So again, that's a really good question. It's a really hard question. If somebody thinks they have a hedge on it, Good for you. You can buy tools. I call equipment, but you can buy tools. But will it keep with the rapid inflation we have seen in this short period? I'm now 65, Alex. I've seen it in the 80s when it went skyrocketing, but it didn't do it. This skyrocket trip was faster than it was in the 80s.
609-488-4646. The number for Scott, 609-488-4646. Another question we got in here before we go to the rapid fire segment here. We're going to learn a little bit more about you, Scott. But first, another one from a listener here is, when might be the right time to start planning for retirement?
Well, that is a $1 million question, and that should be the moment you start work.
Yep.
You see, if you're brand new, right out of the high school, maybe you're joining these armed services, congratulations, and you get a nice stipend, put away a minimum of 10%. That's gross. So if your income a month is $3,000, put away $300. If your income a month is $500, put away $50. It doesn't matter the numbers if you're real young. Now, if you're older and you've got to play catch up. And I had a nice meeting with a lovely couple the other day, and they said, you know what, we treated our kids, we spent a lot of money, we did a lot of fun sport things with our child and our children. And he said, Scott, we didn't really plan. And now they're starting to sock money away. I said, maximize your 401k. So for each individual person, this is very important. By putting your head in the sand, like those ostriches, your vitals are exposed to the elements of inflation, stock market reduction, or stock market going tremendously well. You have a lot of left hooks, so you've got to take your head out of the sand and say, when do I plan? Now, when do I like to meet with people? If they're older, my age group, and I work with people, 55 and older, I'd like to meet with people at least 1 to 2 years ahead of time, worst case, 6 months. Now, for those of you that are just retired now, and you say, well, Scott doesn't want to meet with us. No, I'd love to meet with you. Frankly, this is, again, we're going to try to play catch up. We have to really maneuver things differently. But again, it's not a rushed plan. I see so many people going to financial planners, and they get this fancy 30, 40 page printout. That's good for one day. Next day, life changes. This is really important to understand what you need now, what you and your spouse, if you're married, or just you individually, how much do you need? How much does Social Security be? How much do I need to really live on? And then think backwards. What about the trips I want to take? So again, this planning is not a show up at a Pfizer's office and he does it for you or she does it for you. No, this is think through the process of all the variables, as we spoke about just early in this segment, the healthcare, inflation, Social Security, when do your pension options, they all tie together. In addition, don't forget taxes, because taxes could evaporate a great amount of earnings if taken from the wrong investment.
Great stuff today, and we really appreciate everyone who sent in questions. If you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisor Group, the number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. All right, Scott, we're going to pivot here. You got 2 minutes.
You didn't plan anything? I got nothing planned.
I know. I know. I'm putting you on. You got to be on your toes here, Scott. All right.
Got it.
Which I know you can do, my friend. And so you got 2 minutes, and I'm going to just send you some questions. These are all easy questions because they're about you. Okay, you know you, but I don't want you dwelling on any of these answers because I want to try to get through as many as I can here in 2 minutes.
Got it.
All right. All right.
Go.
Let's do it. 2 minutes on the clock. First question for you, Scott McLean. What's on your bucket list?
Growing my business. I want more locations. I love this business.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Making mistakes and getting so mad at myself. I got to correct them. I hate making mistakes.
When you make that mistake, what's your favorite comfort food? Make you feel better.
I had it last night. Don't tell my wife Twinkies.
I love it. Favorite athlete of all time?
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Watching what he came from and where he was a nobody when he was in high school. Nobody wanted him, and he pulled himself up by the bootstraps.
Yep.
Michael Jordan.
Love that answer right there. Favorite book?
I love the Bible, but on top of the Bible, I would tell anybody to get evidence that demands a verdict. I needed to know what I believe and why I believe, and that was almost like a Harvard graduate, the law book. Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell.
Very cool. We're halfway through it. Go to Icebreaker Story. Is there any sort of icebreaker story? You don't know somebody? Is there something you like to tell about yourself or something that happened? Any icebreaker story for you?
Yes, when I got hit by a car and the car left.
That's a good one. Because I would have questions. I'd have questions.
8 years old, and it was a life-changing alteration.
I bet. What about your morning routine? What's that look like?
Because I drive from the farm to the office, it's about a 45-minute drive, so I shower, get ready, and I have a quiet time by myself, me and my maker. We think about the day and what I need help on and just guidance.
I love it. All right, 2 more real quick. Holiday you look forward to the most?
Easter.
Oh,
Beautiful
very cool.
day.
I love it. And earliest financial lesson that you can remember?
When I was building a huge business and the government took it away, President Biden was involved in that. The biggest lesson was what you think is stable now may not be stable later. How do you plan?
I love it. What a great message. Scott McLean right there in a nutshell in 2 minutes. I appreciate you, my friend. That is great. And I appreciate all of our listeners. Again, if you have a question for Scott and his team, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, as always, good talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Alex. You're wonderful.
And thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your week.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.